Well, thank you for the invite there. I appreciate sharing my passion of photography and in this particular subject of horses. I'm not just going to talk only about horses, but more about what does it mean to be a photographer these days there, right? I mean, maybe it's the wrong crowd to talk. Everybody is a photographer, right? Everybody has an iPhone. I'm sure you guys post images and share images with your relatives and so on. So what I'm going to talk about is beyond art, right? So images that I call beyond art. So we're going to try to see if it works or not, but try to see. I have a little intro for you, and then hopefully you can hear it. Hello, my name is Klink. I'm a Swiss photographer based in the area. I published my first book, Cultures in Transition, Spirit, Heart, Soul in 2019, which won 9 Best of Awards for photography books. The book was integral to the Culture in Transition exhibits, which travel on 3 continents, and the inspiration for my documentary, A Moldeer, Soul of the Burkini Chi, that premiered at the Asian Art Museum San Francisco in 2022. I am bound again for Italy to create Poetry in Motion in early September.
Poetry in motion is not merely a phrase, but an expression of the profound connection shared between humans and horses. A relationship that transcends simple companionship and enters the realm of spiritual. This project seeks to capture the elegance and grace of horses, creatures whose every movement resonates with the rhythm of our own hearts. It dwells deep into the silent dialogues of trust, respect, and mutual empathy that these magnificent beings share with us. Through the lens, each frame and each moment unfold like a stanza in a poem, revealing the beauty and therapeutic power of these noble animals. As they gallop freely, their manes catching the wind like whisper of ancient secrets, we are reminded of our shared journeys, our shared dreams, and the silent strengths that horses bring into our lives. In the eyes of a horse, we often see our own emotions reflected back at us, a mirror of the soul. This mirroring is not just a portrayal of beauty, but an echo of our innermost feelings and challenges. Everyone, horse lover or not, is invited to feel the pulse of life through these creatures, to embrace a journey through the poetic landscapes of motion and emotion, to see the reflection in the eyes of a horse, and to learn not just about horses, but about humanity, empathy, and the delicate threads that connect us to the natural world. We are producing another award-winning book, and I need your help to achieve this goal. Check the various offers to acquire the book and print. The fundraise will go toward the production of the book and exhibit to be announced in 2025. Thank you for the continuous support. Let me just turn up this. So, as you could see, right, making a book on horses, and I'll show you in a little bit what it means there, it needs to start somewhere. And then, as I started to mention, everybody is a photographer. So what does it mean? Everybody is, you on this side? Okay. So is that good? Can you see it now, or? Right? So everybody is a photographer. So let me give you some idea what I mean by everybody is a photographer. So this was on my first trip to Africa. And I don't know if you ever had a chance to go to Africa, but it's an amazing place. And I just came back. Actually, I was there about a month ago, and I met a film crew, like the BBC film crew. So it's really interesting to, when we see those documentary on TV there, it's usually about 4 years in the making, 3 years in a field to film it, 1 year for post-processing. But some images, eventually as a photographer, is what puts you on the map. This is the image that actually put me on the map there.
those two young grizzly bears, and they were holding hands or holding paws because they were scared of basically the big bear that was chasing them. And the thing is, you always want a break in photography, right? So I got that image published in National Geographic. National Geographic is a fantastic outfit, but does not protect the photographers. So to give you an idea, right, is I'm exhibiting that image at a show, and a woman comes to me and said, "How dare you? You stole that image." I said, "What do you mean? I have it as my screensaver." And I said, so she couldn't actually understand that I was actually the photographers there. And then you can do reverse lookup on the images. That image of these two bear holding hands has been stolen over 1,500 times. So people have, and then as a small entity, it's very, very difficult to basically chase people there. This is probably one of the most challenging image that I've taken. This is a northern hawk owl. That was photographed very, very close. The northern hawk owl was probably from me to the tripod that you had right in front there. And then it was a very, very cold winter in Canada where those owls were really hungry. So we were feeding them mice there. And then you could see that, that little guy coming straight at me. This is a shot of a lifetime also there. It's a bald eagle just basically landing. I do teach photography. And then the thing is, when you have basically stuff that comes at you that fast there, right? And then very difficult with exposure. The thing is, you pray, said, "Oh, make sure I got the shot," especially when you have students with you, right? That's the, but it gives you some idea of the power of that. And then is what I feel that what differentiates between everybody as a photographer and someone that spent a little bit more time on the craft is the light. How you basically manage the light. So that was in Thailand, a temple in Thailand, and then going there really early in the morning just gave me that beautiful scene where the elephant were walking through it. But elephant is another subject, and I think when you want to be past everybody is a photographer, you have to almost dedicate a little part of your life to basically a species or type of photography that you want to do. So those are two male bull elephant. And the thing is, the way you usually track elephant is you look at their tracks, you look at the sense of where they are and then where they are going to be. The idea with any animals, especially with any animals, is to be there before they are. Because I could be really a millionaire if I could sell any butt shot that I had for 1 penny. I can tell you that. That's the. So when you see those majestic bull elephants there, right? And still to this day, there's about 96 elephants that are killed every day. So just give you some sense. And then there is some new countries that are basically trying to fight climate change and a lot of different things, famine in Africa, that they have ordered the slaughtering of elephant again. So which is really, really dramatic there. That's the. But the thing is, this bull elephant, I'm very, very close to them, and they are very, very trusty. But imagine if I had 1 ounce of basically bad in me, those guys would not basically survive there. So, yeah, keep watching there. So, elephants are really, really majestic, and you see there they have some black on the bottom of their belly there. Do you guys know why they are black under the belly? Water. They just crossed the water. Yeah, so they were just crossing the water. So you see, and then you see the water level with the trunk there, right? The trunk, and so yeah, so that's it. They were, and then usually they cross the water. That's typically a river behind it, and that's really, really Africa. It's not an image that you would get in a zoo. And I was in Zambia, and yet that little guy, we estimated that he was probably about a month old, something like that. And he couldn't really climb the hill there, so he just had come back from a mud bath. So it's wonderful to see the mom basically helping that little baby up. And then I do photograph for both the Asian elephant and then the African elephant. So in this case, that was in Thailand. And I was very, very fortunate. This guy was 2 months old. And, or what they say, 2 weeks old, right? This little guy was 2 weeks old. And the difference that you see between the African elephant or wild is you cannot really pose them. The Asian elephant, you can do a lot more basically posing, lighting, and then all that stuff. But to give you a sense, at about 2 weeks old, so I spent 1 week with that elephant. When I started the shoot with him, I was trying to push his head there, right? And I can actually push the elephant a little bit back. After 1 week, actually the guy was pushing me. So that's how strong it was already at that age there. That's the... And then I was telling some people about images that haunts you, right? So this is a young girl in India, and she was raised with elephants. So the reason they don't have tusk they cut their tusk in India, number one is those are working elephant, and with tusk they could injure people there. And then also number two, as they are fed, they don't really need the tusk there. But other thing that you can do with elephant, and you can see there when I go, everybody is a photographer there, right? Is when you start to go deeper in a project, that's where you get the sense of what you can do with the elephant. When I work with young models and elephant, you know, it's pretty easy to direct them. I said, oh, you shouldn't be scared of an elephant. But I always try to put myself in their shoes, how big those guys are when they are next there, right? And then I had instances where, you know, at the end of the shoot, the people always want to take their selfie with the elephant. And the elephant at one point gets really tired of it, right? And then one elephant just pushed a person right with his trunk. And then the person just flew about 30 feet. That's how hard it is there, right? So again, everybody is a photographer. It's the eye, right? What you see with the eye and then what you can see. So I would say also when you're a photographer, you're going to try to tell stories, right? And what makes a good story, right? Do you want to humanize the animals? So let me give you some ideas there, right? With those two grizzly bears. So here you have kind of a little girl there. She's about 6 months, 4 months, 6 months old. And she's very innocent there, right, on the beach. So now she starts to fight with her brother, right, a twin brother. Now, who do you think gets into trouble? Yeah, so you can see there, right? And then this was a story that I'm telling about the little bear that wants to grow up really, really fast, like all of us there, right? We wanted to grow up, we had all those dreams. And at the end of the day, the little bear, the only thing he can think about is to be with his mom and his daughter there. Other thing that you can do as a photographer is really try to find local projects, which is very, very challenging because everything is boring around your town there, right? It's, this is boring. But we have one of the best places on the planet to photograph landscape, where Ansel Adams started and all that stuff. So this is a compilation of images that I did at Yosemite. I don't go to Yosemite very, very often. I only go when it snows. And then, so the challenge there is you need to be in a park before they actually close it. So that was about 3 Christmas ago, I think, that I was there. And then there was nobody in the park, not even the photographers there. And then I was there for about 3 days. And on day 4, they reopened the road and I was gone, right? So that's it. So photography could be also a creative expression. So here in this situation, I did not photograph those elephants against a backdrop, but I photographed the backdrop in museum. I go to museum in India, I photographed the backdrop, and I had the idea that I wanted to represent the circus, what the circus looked like, or like those fancy Indian weddings there. That's give you. So this was an interesting guy. It's basically Shiva. So I found Shiva on the street there, right? And I said, hey, can you be the blue boy for me? And he said, yeah, that's no problem, except he was scared of elephant. So if you look at all the images, in all the images, he's always the furthest away from the elephant there, right? So you never know, right? There's what it means there. And then, so now that you have your images there, right? What does it mean, basically, packaging a story, right? So there's different way. Like, for example, my in-laws are Chinese. They left China in the 60s. And then, so in 2001, we basically went back, my wife and her parents went back to China. And what was interesting in 2001, right? Imagine 2001, my father-in-law told me a really, really good Chinese proverb is that when you cross the river, you need to feel the pebble under your feet. So what does that mean? He felt that 2001, that China was growing already too fast. So I photographed, and then he said, I don't really recognize my China. So you see all the dots there, the orange dots, and then the red dots. That's where I started to travel to try to figure out if I could find the real China that he was used to. And this is like in Asia, that was in Bhutan. So how do you basically photograph like a place like this? It took me one day, a full day. I stayed at that place. And then it was a bus stop, and I was just observing the people that basically got off the bus, and it's kind of a little general store. And then at one point is I saw these two goats that were behind me. And so with my guys, I said, oh, let's try to catch those goats. And we put them right there. And what I felt suddenly, what I was photographing was a theater. Is where you had all those people that were in the lodges there through the windows, and I were watching those goats there. I feel that photography and packaging stories really works when you have access. You really, really need access, because if you photograph like what everybody else photograph, then there is not going to be as much appeal there, right? You want to have kind of that the thing that that gets you excited. So this is in Bhutan, and this is a private monastery. And then again, no Westerners can go to this place. Here it's a little too small for you guys to see, but this was in Myanmar. And then in Myanmar, when you look at basically the writing that is on the wall there, it's in French. So even in a Buddhist country, the priests were trying to convert the people. She was my guide, 9 years old, my guide in China. I could not have photographed any of the images that I took in some part of China without her help, because she was trusted by the people. Like one of the image there, right? One of the image that, so what you see, the trees and the root of the trees, those are banyan trees, very, very old trees there, that adds to the history. If you know a little bit about the Asian culture, is people are not, don't show PDA, right? Public display of affection. And that was very, very special to see this elderly couple basically holding hands. So now when you have all those images there for that project, was called Cultures in Transition, then it's a matter is what image do you select? I had about 1 million images. So it was about 1 million images that I had to compile and then print. And then eventually I made a book, which was awarded 9 awards for best photography book. So that basically what I mean is basically packaging a story, where you do a book, you do an exhibit, you involve the local community to try to embrace the project that you do. And then I went across 3 continents. I exhibited in Europe, in North and South America. That's the so it's typically an idea. Like I was in Paris, where I exhibited in Paris. And then after that, as soon as you start to exhibit and you come from far away, people are really interested in interviewing you. This is like, imagine, right? I'm in the US and I need to exhibit in Paris. How does that happen? Right? You have to carry your images, you have to carry a book. I had about 8 luggages that I carried on a plane with me. And then when the show was done, I loaded the car and went on to the next show. So this is a book that I mentioned that was an award-winning book. I'm a specialist of especially black and white. I do all the printing myself, and then I actually mix my own ink. And that has made a really big difference. Some people that have actually purchased that book say that they cannot believe how good of a printing it can be. And then eventually I also did a movie that was featured at the Asian Art Museum. And it's about the Burkini Chi, who are the eagle hunters of Mongolia. And the eagle hunters it's a male-dominated society. And now the young girls are the ones that are maintaining the tradition there. So when are you ready for a project? So now on talking about the horses, I have over 160,000 images of horses, photographed in 12 countries, 30 locations. And then eventually, out of this 160,000 images, I picked 108. So let me show you how it actually started here. So not a trivial project. So let me.
We were always the running kind, no such thing as keeping time. Rode the ridge, crossed the county line, a body can't run free. My best friend was a tag along. Me, I sang my own song. But days got short, nights got long, and there was comfort in our company, and we'd run just to be running. We were wild, were untamed. Long as you can keep on running, you don't need fences, you don't need names, you don't need fences, you don't need names.
So you saw what was at the very end there, right? That says coming Christmas 2023. The book just arrived. It's going to arrive in. So that's how long it takes basically to make a book there, right? I mean, we were just past COVID in Italy. I printed all my books in Italy. The cost of energy was astronomical. Shipping was crazy. So I had to wait basically that long to publish the book. So the way the book is structured, and then you're welcome to come and look at the book at the end, is I have 10 chapters, and each chapters start with a quote from a person that I've photographed. So in that case, her name is Jennifer. And then what she writes is I don't know any little girl that doesn't dream of owning a horse. So that became the dream chapters, right? And then after you have a full chapter that goes about dreams. And then generation, I traveled to New Mexico and I found those real cowboys or gauchos. And again, what he told me there, what was really important, there are three things in life that we need, right? Is when you're on a ranch, you need the land, you need the water, and then you need family. So without maybe so it's kind of disturbing when people talk behind me. So that's basically what generation means there, right? Is when you have to basically pay attention of your surrounding. Supernatural, she's a woman out of Sacramento. Her name is Christina. And then she talks about supernatural, not the Marvel kind, but really that relationship between horses and riders, that predators that they have. And we ask horses to do a lot, but what do we give in exchange to the horse? And there's that relationship that works. So it's a really, really interesting chapter. Sacred is about a friend of mine that I met in Turkey. And he said that, you know what is amazing about those horses? Nobody wants horses these days. They cost too much money, cannot do anything. And he's taking on basically saving a breed of horses, the Yilki horses in Turkey. And he has saved already over 100 horses there. And amazing. I mean, if you look at Turkey, is the inflation rate is up the yin yang. He has no money, but the first basically items that get food, the horses gets food before he does. And then so poetry in motion. Why do I call that poetry in motion? Is I do feel that there is something about a horse. I'm not a horse. I don't own a horse. I don't ride a horse. But when I'm around people that are with horses, there is a certain feel to it. And then that's basically what I want to describe in a book that it is. So it is a pretty sizable book. The idea was to make the largest book possible. I can tell you the challenge of making really, really large book, it breaks not one bank, but two banks, and then everybody lose their hair, gets gray hair. So let me tell you how basically that happened there, right? So I go to Italy, and this is basically the facility where I print. So you imagine the press that I print the book is probably as large from me all the way to the end. And then the press has different number of rolls that says the color that you do. So that this time I printed on a 10 color press. So here you have basically a 7 or 10 color press. Then after that you need to basically mix the ink, which is called a Pantone. So you look at the swatches and you said that's the color that I really want, and then you start to mix the ink and you get that into the roll. And then what do you do at the roll? You create negative plates. So it's a plate that you print. It's printed on aluminum. And then basically what happened there, where you see the shape, and then depending on how many colors you print, if you print with like a 7 color press, you have basically 7 of those sheets that are all split by color. So for example, if I want red, maybe there's going to be a tiny little bit of red only on a page, and that's the only thing that is going to print printed. And then after you just keep going. And then so you put the sheet in a machine, you warm up the machine, and then what you do is everything is computer driven. So I always have my own print that I make at home, and then I compare with what's come out of the press. And then now we look at the dial on the board, and I said, are we sure that the recipe that we put to tell the machine is actually what's coming out? So on the newer machine, you do have a scanner that does a live scanning of every sheet that comes out, which is really, really incredible. And eventually that's what you do. But is as much as computerized everything is, there's still the human eye that needs to have basically that final say of the feel of the images that you want. And then it's well reflected in a book. When I printed the cover was even a step more challenging, because this is a special material that I use. It's kind of a cloth material that basically doesn't get damaged, and that you can really print. It's really worth looking at it on the book afterwards. So then you go to the bindery. And the bindery, when you go to this really, really large book, everything has pretty much to be done manually. So let me give you an idea of what it means to just do it manually there. So printing the book, binding the book.
In order to reinforce the hinge, we are putting an additional glue by hand, so the rigidity of the cover will be more, so also the stability of the book shape will be much better. So everything, as you can see, is by hand. And afterwards, after this operation, because the first hinge is formed by the machine, we are going to do the additional hinge pressure with this machine.
So it looks very easy when you look at on the book. You would not believe how long it took us to actually get that binding basically under control. Initially, the binding, normally if you look at book are very tall. They're usually very, very tall, but are rarely, let me show you, it's probably a good time now to show you the book. They are very rarely in that size there, right? In the horizontal size. Because what happened is, you don't have that much support for the hinging there, right? That's the, now, the beauty of it, and then the reason I made this, push the boundary, because I wanted to have the horses run around. And then when you look at the horses, they really need to have a presence too. And then, yeah, so that's basically that presence, and then do crossover pages. Yeah, which I'll show you afterwards if you're interested there at doing more. So now you have the books that are done. So the next thing to do is to put them on a pallet. Let me do this. Let me make sure right there. So you put them on a pallet, and just give you an idea, there's 10 of those that are going to arrive at my house at the end of November. So, the books that I have here, I had kind of I did a pre-shipment by air. So I have only very few books here. So you are very, very fortunate if you want to own a book right now. You're going to be the first one in the US that are going to own this book. That's the... So then what's next? Next is basically exhibit. I already had an exhibit in San Jose. So it's really, really beautiful. I tend to print, as Bruce mentioned, I print very, very large. And then there's, again, a different skills to print at that size. To give you a sense, in 2002, I purchased a digital camera. That was a medium format digital camera. And that digital camera was 16 megapixel. Just give you an idea. Your phone right now is probably 48 megapixel. Does anybody wants to guess how much I paid for that 16 megapixel camera? Yeah. So you can add a zero to it. I paid 40 grand in 2002 for a 16 megapixel camera. So in 2009, or 2006, I bought a 50 megapixel camera, right? Which was a Hasselblad. Hasselblad is a camera that went on the moon there, right? And by the time I had the camera and about 3 lenses, I'd spent about $60,000. And today, I shoot with a 100 megapixel camera, right? And it's a 100 megapixel camera that I paid $10,000. And then you can actually get an older model of that 100 megapixel for $2,000. So you see basically the way things have fluctuated. I would say the biggest difference that I see with the camera that I use are typically used for studio, fashion photography, and I take everything in the dirt, in Antarctica. I've traveled on all the continents, and then the story with my cameras are countless. Where I was in Africa one time, and then if you know a little bit how camera works, is basically you have a curtain, right? So you open the curtain, then the sensor is basically, or the light come on the sensor, then the curtain closed. So my curtain basically broke in Africa. So I called Hasselblad and I said, hey, what can you do? I said, well, we can get you a camera, but it will take about 2 weeks. So what I went to a shoe repair guy, and we super glued the curtain, so to give you some ideas. So when I got back home, Hasselblad basically had a special offer where you could upgrade your camera, and then you'd return your old camera, right? And a friend of mine had a camera, and then he never used it, right? I said, and his name was Theron. I said, Theron, don't you want to return my camera that is super glued, and I'll take yours? So I got a good trade. Not 2 months later, that camera got stolen. That's the bad karma. So my next exhibit is going to be at Image Central in Hayward. It's going to be a really, really fantastic exhibit starting on December 12th. And again, there, if you put your name on the mailing list, I'll keep you posted on that stuff. So now, about the book. So this is a great present if you want, and you're guaranteed to get it here. And you don't have to pay for shipping. So the book is normally $160. Here you can get it for $130. If you pay cash, I will not charge you the sales tax. Otherwise, I can use a credit card machine, and you can purchase a book. And then I only got 20 books, right, mailed by air because it's very, very expensive. So depending on how many of you are interested in that book, you just let me know, and then we'll see how many I can basically reserve for you guys. So there. So now I'm going to show you 2 images that I took last weekend, because I know you guys are always interested in images. And this is a phenomenal. This is, again, Christina, the gal that basically talks about supernatural, right? And then I'm there, and then usually to do these shoots there, I have fog machines, light system, and then it's a full production, right? It's a full production. And then the thing is, there's always the surprises that you have when you do this production there, right? So I had this woman that was kind of the helper, and then I asked the helper, I said, hey, would you be interested in riding a horse? I said, oh yeah, that would be phenomenal there, right? Now guess what? She was a redhead. It was absolutely beautiful. That just came right out of the cloud. So that's basically what I call the magic of photography, right? And then thank you for listening, and hopefully you got a little bit of sense of what photography means. And then I'm perfectly glad to answer any questions. And again, afterwards, if you are interested in buying the book, come forward, and then we'll be able to grab a book today and go home with a book. So, yep.
You mentioned that you had to mix the ink, and it was quite an ordeal to mix that ink. Did you have to mix it for every color?
So very, very good question. So what you do when you do black and white printing is normally you print with color ink, right? You mix basically all the color. So to get the really, really good, that was kind of the weakest part when I moved to digital, because I was a darkroom guy, right? And I could control. So I found a method where I took only black and white ink that I basically mix, replace my cartridges in my printer, and I create recipes. So the only thing I have 8 shades of gray in my printer. It's called pixography. So become very complex because you have to tell the printer yellow equal that ink, and then after that you have to create your curve to print. But it's absolutely phenomenal. I've shown my images to gallerists and then all the staff. They look at the print sideways, however, and they cannot figure out how I basically get that quality of the print there. So.
Do you have other photographers that kind of want to get you to purchase?
So yes. So there's quite a few after seeing, I mean, when you go to these portfolio reviews or you show your images, the galleries always tell me, said, you should print for everybody in this room. That's here. So I do print for some people, and I coach them how to use this ink.
With AI these days, how does the public know if it's AI or an actual photograph?
Very, very good question. When it's, so AI, so typically the best engine for AI is Midjourney. So Midjourney is a good engine. And then the way AI works, you go into an engine and you just basically talk to the engine and says, I want a horse in a fog running towards me, redhead lady and all that stuff. And it's going to basically publish about 4 samples. And then after you keep improving. When you look at digitally, now it's a little harder to figure out, but you can always figure out there is something that is AI generated, especially in the hands. The hands are not very, very good. But the bigger thing is when you pass the digital world and you go into the printing world, AI is not very big. Those are very, very small images. So when you see my images that are, as Bruce mentioned, 5 feet long and all that stuff, you cannot generate those kind of images with AI. But the thing is, what I've noticed with AI, I taught basically an AI class about, and then I compared all the different engine and all those different things. And I have a friend, my co-instructor, who is an expert painter. And then what he does, he uses AI to basically just do photography painting online there, right? Now the thing is, even if I take exactly the same prompt, that's called a prompt there, right? In my engine, I don't get the same images as he does. He has a feel. If you are a good artist, AI is only going to help you out. But what I can tell you with AI is probably there's about 99.99999999995% that AI images will never be seen by anybody. It's even worse. So like, for example, you can go, there's those sites where you can post your images, like those NFTs or whatever, right? And the only people that make money are the famous people. And why? Because you're already known and you're trying to basically cut the channels, right? Instead of going through a gallery and the gallery sell your images, he said, I'm going to go to that engine and then basically sell those images. So, but it is a concern for people. But you know, it was the same concern in 1997 when Photoshop became popular there. It said, oh yeah, it's going to kill photography. And you see where we are right now, right? That's the... Except for Kodak. But Kodak is coming back, by the way. They're still coming back there. Any other questions on...